Today, we're decoding the 7 most iconic careers on Wall Street. We're going to cut through all the Hollywood glamour, the Wolf of Wall Street stuff, to find out what these jobs are actually like, what they pay, and what they're going to cost you in return.
So let's just get right to it. The big question that pretty much everyone secretly asks. With the totally insane hours, the crushing pressure, and that cutthroat culture, is a career in high finance actually worth the trade-off?
Well, to figure that out, we're going to put these careers through a pretty intense gauntlet. First, we'll set up our framework. Then we'll dive into the classic banker path, check out the masters of the market, look at some alternative routes, and then see how it all stacks up in the end. All right, before we start handing out any grades, let's lay down the rules of the game. We're going to use a 6-point framework to judge every single one of these careers, and it's designed to slice right through the prestige and see what they're really like day to day. Okay, so we're going to judge each job on these 6 core things: pay, hours, how hard it is to get in, what you can do after you leave, job security, and meaning. For each one, we'll slap on a letter grade from S tier for the absolute best of the best, all the way down to F tier for, well, you know what F tier means. Let's get to our first contenders, starting with what is probably the most famous entry point into high finance: investment banking. And of course, its classic, even richer big brother, private equity. Investment banking is, for so many ambitious grads, the default starting line. It's got arguably the most prestigious name on our list, but man, when you look at almost any quality of life metric, it's famous for being one of the most brutal places to actually work. And trust me, when we talk about brutal hours, it's not an exaggeration. This quote right here, it comes straight from a leaked internal survey at Goldman Sachs back in 2021. It showed that first-year analysts were basically living at the office, 95 hours a week. So after a couple of years of that soul-crushing grind, the dream for a lot of bankers is to jump over to private equity. This is really seen as the big leagues. You go from just advising on deals to actually buying and operating whole companies, with an even bigger paycheck to go with it. And looking at the scorecard, you really see that trade-off in action. See, investment banking gets an A tier for exit opportunities because, hey, it opens pretty much any door on Wall Street. But private equity, that hits S tier for pay, which is exactly why its entry difficulty gets an F. These firms almost exclusively hire the absolute top analysts from banks like Goldman. So why is the pay just so ridiculously high? It all comes down to this one thing called carried interest. Basically, it's how the partners get a direct slice of the billions in profit a fund can make. It can turn a single good deal into a multi-million-dollar personal payday. Okay, let's move on. We're shifting gears from the structured world of deal-making to the absolute Wild West of finance: hedge funds. This is a world where your performance is everything. So, hedge funds. In this world, your survival is based on one thing and one thing only: how much money did you make for the fund last quarter? Performance isn't just the main thing, it's the only thing. And just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about here, look at this number: $4.1 billion. That was the personal take-home pay for Citadel's founder, Ken Griffin, in 2022 alone. That is more than the GDP of some small countries. And this really gets to the core trade-off for hedge funds. The pay is amazing. And you know what? The hours are actually pretty manageable. But the job security gets an F, the absolute worst on our entire list. You are only as good as your last P&L statement. One bad quarter, one bad stretch, and you are out. Okay, so what if you want a career in high finance, but maybe, you'd like to keep at least a small piece of your soul? Let's look at 2 alternative paths that offer a very different kind of bargain. So on one side, you've got venture capital. This is all about funding the future giants, the next Stripe or Airbnb. The culture feels way more like a startup than a bank. And on the other side, you've got asset management. This is the quiet, super stable giant, managing trillions of dollars for, regular people's retirement funds. And the scorecard just makes this so clear.
Both of them get a fantastic A grade for hours, which is awesome. But they're chasing totally different things. Venture capital gets our highest meaning score because you're literally funding innovation. Meanwhile, asset management provides S-tier, rock-solid job security. All right, finally, we get to the intellectual elite of Wall Street. These are the jobs that need a completely different level of brainpower: proprietary trading and quantitative finance. Yeah, both of these paths offer S-tier pay faster than pretty much anywhere else on the planet. But, and this is a huge but, that F-tier for entry difficulty, it is no joke. You basically need a PhD in physics or math or just some kind of freakish, natural-born talent to even land an interview. So, we've run the gauntlet. Now it's time to put it all together. Let's look at the entire landscape of Wall Street trade-offs side by side. You can see where each career really shines and, of course, where it really, really doesn't. I mean, just look at this. The difference in pay right out of the gate is just staggering. A first-year prop trader can pull in $500,000. That is more than double what an investment banker makes, who, by the way, is almost definitely working way, way worse hours to get it. So here it is, the whole shebang, the full breakdown, with all of the trade-offs laid bare. And you can see these crazy contrasts, right? From the S-tier pay of prop trading and private equity, to the S-tier job security you get in asset management, all the way to that A-tier meaning you might find in venture capital. So I think the big takeaway here is that every single one of these paths demands a major sacrifice. There's no free lunch. It might be your time, your sanity, your job security, or just a lower paycheck. The only real question left is, which sacrifice are you willing to make?